Welcome. What I want to talk about today is just how to name different things inside of planes and with points, lines, and segments and rays. Okay, so I got a few problems that I want to do. Our first set of problems go with this plane that is located here on the right-hand side. We're going to use this figure to name each of the following, okay? So we want to name a line that is containing point X. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to find a line that contains point X. So you want to find point X. So there's point X. A line containing it has to have 2 points. And so when we label that, it has to have 2 points that make that line. And so all I got to do is I got to find another point that's on that line. And the other point that's on that line is Y and R. And so we could call it like this. We could say X, Y. But we got to put a line on top of it to show that. We could say YX. That works too. Because, well, order doesn't matter in this. Because when we're talking about lines, it doesn't matter the order of the way you put those letters. It only matters when you're talking about rays. So we could also do something like RY. That also contains X. You may say, well, that doesn't contain X in that name, but it does because it goes all the way across and through. We could also use this little script M here to label it, and we can call it line M. And that works as well. And so the big thing is that there are many different ways to name the same figure. And so you may have an answer that is correct, but not the same as everybody else's, and that's okay. Let's move on to the next one. A line containing point Z. If you see where point Z is located, that line that contains it is a dotted line all the way up through to it becomes solid. And the reason why it does that is because it's trying to show depth. It's trying to show that that line is actually entering and exiting the plane itself. So that means Z is not really on that plane. And that's okay, but it is a part of that line. You can see this little L up here. Just like the M, we can call it line M. Or I'm sorry, line L. We can call it line L. We could also call it line ZR. Or we could call it line RZ. That also works. All right, looking at a plane containing points X and R, our last one. So the plane itself, which is B, because of this little script right here, we could call it plane B. So if you see a little letter in the corner, you can refer to it as that plane. But also you can use 3 points as long as those points aren't on the same line. So for example, I could say something like plane X, Y, W. So plane X, Y, W would work, okay? What we couldn't say, all right, and which doesn't work, is we couldn't say plane X, Y, R, because that actually is forming a line. And so we can't name a plane that way, so that's incorrect. All right, so that's how you name some stuff using figures. Let's continue. What we want to do is we want to look at this figure, and this is what we call a triangular prism. This prism has depth because it has the dotted lines. We want to know how many planes there are. And so to count the planes, you have to use the different shapes that are there. So we know we have 2 triangles, right, because they go around the figure. We also have the back piece. We have the front piece, and we have the bottom. And so that means we have actually 5 planes, because we have the 2 sides and the 3 rectangles. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and erase that so that we can use a different pen to be able to show some different things. All right, so moving on to the next problem, we're going to name 3 points that are collinear. And so that means we want to find points that lie on the same line. So that means like if I was going to connect them, I could connect them with a line. And so right here I see point A, point H, and point B. Those are all collinear. But also you could say point B, point J, and point F. Those are also collinear. So both of those answers work. because they fall on the same line. All right, our next question is, are points A, H, J, and D coplanar? Well, in order for them to be coplanar, they have to actually fall on the same plane. So let's just check and see if they do. So using a different font color, we'll go ahead and look. A, H, J, and D. All right, so it may look like they fall on the same plane, but A, H, and J, they actually fall on that plane that's towards us. And D actually falls on the back plane, okay? So since D falls on the back plane, that is a no, because D is not with the others. D is not with the others. All right, last one. Are points B, D, and F coplanar? All right, so in order for them to be coplanar, again, they have to be on the same plane. So let's just check it out and make sure. So I'm going to use a different color again real quick. Let's use blue. So let's take a look at B, D, and F. Well, all three of those actually form this plane here, and therefore they have to be on the same plane because they form that triangle. So that is a yes. They actually form that triangle.